I want you to forgive your younger self. I want you to soothe your younger self. Tell your younger self that you understand her. She's not at fault. She did all she could at the time, or what she had the capacity to do at the time. What you did, what you shouldn't have done, or what you might have done isn't the reason why you experienced what you experienced, the level that you experienced it. This is typically not how I would come on camera, because obviously I get prepared for my videos. This is literally Tuesday night after work, which is not a filming day for me at all, but I needed to talk about this, and I just don't care how I show up on camera to talk about it, and that's the reason why you see me like this. So hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hey girl, my name is Lucy. I always say to stay subscribed. We have a good time on this channel. As you have seen by the title, today we're going to talk about how to heal emotional trauma, past wounds and baggages. Now, before we jump right into the video, I'd like to put out a disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist, neither am I a psychologist. So everything I'm going to talk to you guys about in this video is based on my own experiences, how I was able to transform my life with my traumas, how I was able to rewrite my story, the things that worked for me, the steps I took that worked for me. And I'm hoping that it will help you too, but I don't want you to take it as professional advice, okay? Let's talk about trauma and how it's perceived from individual to individual, how people take trauma. The reason why I want to talk about this is because people have this tendency to underestimate or undermine people's trauma. Trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter if you as a person perceive that person's trauma or experiences as hard enough or harsh enough or painful enough or hurtful. What might be hurtful to you might not be to the next person. We all have different experiences in life. We're built differently and we're shaped based off of our experiences. The capacity we have, the tolerance that we have, the threshold that we have is quite different from the next person. What might be traumatizing to me might not necessarily be traumatizing to you, right? And this is one of the reasons why I mentioned in one of my videos that discussing past traumas with people is quite tricky, because you might see as trauma but they don't see as trauma, so they make you even more traumatized by undermining your own trauma. This is why I never advise to speak about your traumas with people, your past mistakes and stuff. I always advise that if you need to speak to somebody about your past wounds, your open wounds, your unhealed wounds, emotional traumas, I always advise that you speak to a professional, because a professional would understand this clearly than any individual would, even if the person is close to you. What you might consider harsh, say for instance you losing your job, might be traumatizing to you, but not necessarily someone who's been losing their job from years back. When you're going through that moment in your life and it's traumatizing to you, they might not necessarily be the ones to help you at that time. It doesn't mean that they don't love you or they don't care about you, just to let you know that. It just means that they don't really understand or they cannot really relate. Don't ever be the one person to sit here and undermine what you've been through. Don't ever look at what you've been through that probably made you feel a type of way or made you feel a significant amount of hurt at that time. Don't ever undermine that situation just because you're afraid or you're embarrassed to say that this is how you felt or it traumatized you. Your trauma is your trauma and you have to deal with it accordingly. You can't keep pushing events that happen in your life away just because you think you shouldn't be reacting a certain way to situations, or people would look at it as not worthy to be trauma. Your trauma is your trauma. Your story is your story. Your experience is your experience. It doesn't matter what anybody says. You went through it. You lived through it. You experienced it. It hurt you in the way that it did, however it did. Don't let anything or anyone make you feel like what you've experienced isn't enough pain for you to label it as trauma. It is trauma, okay? That's the first thing I want to put out there, because I've heard a lot of situations where people just feel embarrassed to talk about certain things that they've been through in their life just because they feel like they shouldn't feel that level of hurt towards that situation, if that makes sense. I am here to tell you, it is your life, it is your hurt, it is your story, it is your experience. You have to embrace it. You have to see it for what it is. It is something that you remember clearly in your head. It is something that happened to you, whether it is 3 years ago or 10 years ago, and you can't just seem to forget about it. That is your trauma, no matter how little you think it is. Like, again, I'm going to say, I don't think what you've been through is little. It created a dent in your heart. It is stuck in your head. It has influenced so many behaviors in your life. It has somehow impacted the person that you are today. You can't seem to forget it. You have details of that situation that happened, no matter how flimsy you might think it is. You can't keep pushing it aside, because the experiences that we have had that left a mark in our life is significant. So whatever it is you're pushing aside right now and calling it little or calling it a situation is the reason why you act a certain way towards certain situations, but you label it little. Love, it is trauma, and you need to work through that trauma. You need to dissect that trauma. You need to deal with it. You need to heal from it. You need to get over it. If you don't do that, it will keep reoccurring in your life and you keep reliving that trauma. You don't want to get to that point where you get comfortable with your trauma. If it pierces your heart, my love, it pierces your heart. If it stings so bad, it stings so bad. If you can't get over it, you can't get over it. I don't want you to beat yourself up about you not being able to get over this trauma or you having this as trauma in your life. A lot of people shy away from the traumas in their life because they're embarrassed that they don't have the capacity to handle that trauma, because they think it's the kind of trauma that people would typically brush off. You know where it hurts. It's your shoe. You wear it. You know how you feel, and it's okay for you to feel how you feel. It is very important that you understand that the capabilities or capacity that you have as a human being is different from the next person. Your story is different. I say this in almost every video. So are your traumas. It might be similar to the next person, but that's not necessarily a key point in their story, but it is in yours. So however it affects you as a human being is part of your story, it's part of your life, it's who you are, and you deal with it accordingly. Your trauma is your trauma, and stop shying away from labeling that situation you went through as trauma. Now, the first step that I took to healing my own emotional traumas, healing my wounds, dealing with my baggages, was coming to terms with the trauma that I have in my life. Now, this is something that a lot of people shy away from. It goes back to the point that I just made, or the things that I just spoke about. People don't really understand what is trauma in their life and what isn't. I want you to sit and create awareness. A lot of us know the traumas in our lives. A lot of us know where it's rooted from. A lot of us know the situations in our life. But like I said in my previous point, because sometimes it's not as grand, it's not as big as other people make their trauma to seem, you step away from it. You shy away from it. While others actually are scared to revisit those issues. And I'll be honest with you, based on my personal experience, most of the situations that we go through right now in our lives, or the issues that we have right now in our lives, they are rooted from our childhood. A lot of us shy away from going back to that memory because I wouldn't lie to you, from somebody that have experienced it, that has gone through this, it is hurtful, it is painful, it's opening a can of worms. It's digging back 20, 30 years of your life, 15 years of your life, 10 years of your life, trying to relieve those situations, to pinpoint those situations, those traumas in your life, is reliving those things again. And a lot of us don't want to do that. That's the reason why it takes years and years for people to actually address their traumas, whether emotionally or heal their past wounds, because to be honest, all they do is just put a band-aid on it all the time. They kind of smoothing it, clean it out a little bit, and then put a band-aid on it, and then it keeps growing and growing without actually looking for a cure. I honestly didn't know that I had this trauma that was rooted from our childhood, and a lot of us have that today. Majority of the issues that we face in our lives, the way we are right now, is rooted from way back. How we were treated as kids, what our parents taught us, how they let us handle situations, how they handle situations, how they treated us when we failed, when we fell, those type of things. Traumas are traumas. It comes in different forms. When I decided to take the work serious on myself was when I tried so hard to remedy my life in the way that I knew how to with my present situations, and it wasn't working. And I asked myself severally, what am I missing? Because I don't seem to be getting better character-wise. I don't seem to be dropping all this bad attitude, the way I behave, the way I talk, the way I handle situations, the way I deal with people, the way my life is, the way my emotions run. What am I caging myself from? What is going on with me that I just cannot fix things even when I'm actively trying to fix things? I started going to therapy, and then a can of worms opened up. A series of painful events. I had to answer so many difficult questions. The crazy thing about that is the fact that I already knew those things. It was sitting somewhere in my mind. It's always seated somewhere in your head, but you're just scared to touch it. You just don't want to touch it because you feel like touching it is just going to give you a lot of discomfort and pain. Or I don't think it has anything to do with my present situation, my present life. Denial. Denial is our biggest problem. You keep living in denial that no, that's not my problem. That's not the issue. I don't think that's a contributing factor to what's happening with me, how I've grown up, my character trait, this bad habit. You don't want to touch it because you don't want to believe that that's where it's coming from. But there's something in you that remembers the details of those situations, and because of that, you're unconsciously acting the way you're acting. It's shaping and forming and controlling your life. You kind of know that you need to clean up that area, but you end up not doing that, which is why this is number one on my list, because this takes a long time, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm not going to lie to you guys. This is not a process of 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 2 years. And I'll be honest with you, take your time with this, because to heal is to heal properly. If you really want to heal, you have to do the work to heal properly. So no matter how long it takes, which I completely understand, being someone that I've gone through this journey, it takes a while. Opening that can of worms will unravel so many things in your life. You'll be hurt all over again. And I'm being honest with you because I know the point I was in, okay? I know how difficult it has been, or how difficult it was for me going through this and relieving all of it, and actually realizing that yes, this actually screwed me over. This actually has an impact in my life. This is what happened here. This is what happened there. It took me a lot. And yes, I did speak to a professional, like I said, but majority of the work was on me and with me. I had a light bulb moment and everything automatically became clear for me where my issues were coming from. That was my first step to looking into my life, my childhood, the things that scared me at the time, the kind of talks I received, the kind of information I got that actually shaped my thinking to a certain point in my life. Thank God I've been delivered and free from that. So a lot of things I had to unravel, and trust me, it took a lot of calling people from my childhood. It took a lot of speaking to my mom. It took a lot of talking and understanding situations for me to actually attack those issues. So the first step I would definitely advise is to open up, knowing your trauma, labeling them as your trauma, no matter how small or no matter how scared you are of it. Don't be afraid to pinpoint it or go back to it. Yes, it's hurtful. Yes, it's painful, but it's essential for your healing process. It's essential for your growth. It's essential for your life. When you have done all of this, which I know at this point will be so heavy for you to deal with or to carry, it'll be so hurtful for you to dig up and understand, we're going to move into accepting them. And I know this is another difficult part. Nobody said healing from trauma is ever easy, and that's the reason why I told you guys earlier, it takes a long time. Acceptance is another step that is so difficult, and I tell you, it is so easy to sit here and blame whoever or whatever in whatever situation or trauma that you have been through. Whoever inflicted the pain on you, whoever caused the wounds, whoever is the reason or the other person in your story. It's so easy and comforting. Keyword is comforting to blame somebody else. I want you to practice this. I want you to look at this from this angle. What if you take emotions out of it and put logic into the situation? And before you scream at me, just hear me out. We are human beings. No matter how hard it might be to understand, because you've seen people that are hard rock, you've seen people that are just bad, you've seen people that are wicked. Have you ever had that conversation with yourself where it's like something must have happened to them for them to be like that? And again, I do understand that there are people that are just strange and are just bad. Listen, we have those stories, we've listened to those stories, we've heard those stories, we've experienced those stories even, right? But it actually takes a hurt person to hurt you. Just like what I mean. Hurt hurts. That sounds weird. If you were to look at those situations, what other scenarios can you play in your head about the situation? Because to be honest, the main reason why we have this trauma in our lives, or these situations turn into trauma in our life, is because we have always thought about them in one way only. So it's like the way we thought of it when it happened is pretty much the only way we have thought of it throughout. It's the only way we have carried these situations throughout. There was no wiggle room for what ifs. There was no room for, there could be another possible situation or answer to why things went the way it went. And I understand, like I said, this is one of the most painful parts of it, because I don't know what your situation is, and I understand how painful it must have been, or it is. I can relate to you when I say I understand how this part is. And I understand also that there are situations where you can't see any other scenario. And that's also fine, because there are traumas that there was pretty much no other way than how it went, which is okay. One thing I want you to do is accept the way it has gone. Logically think about the situations, unbiased. Sit down, think about it, and ask yourself several questions. Is there any possible reason why my parents abandoned me? For instance, if that's your situation, is there any possible reason why he left me on my wedding day? Because these are real life situations. Could there be any other possible scenarios that could be played in this situation? He helps you. He helps you think about things in a whole different light from how you've been thinking about it. This is completely for your healing process and not even for them. You are thinking about these things in the way you're thinking about them to help you mentally declutter the situation, or even tear apart the situation in your head, than the way that that you've always thought about it, that has hurt you so much, that has completely left that heavy feeling in your chest. For years, you haven't been able to be at peace with yourself. You've not been able to do certain things in your life. You've not been able to live your happiest self because of this situation. So looking at the situation from a different angle will help you reduce the tension you feel about that situation in your heart. The scenario that you're painting might not be necessarily true, but you're looking at it from different perspective, which is also good because perspective is good. The way we think about things, the way we see things isn't always the way that it truly is. For the most part, you know, as human beings, we have the tendencies of looking at things from the lens that we are comfortable looking at them from. So they hurt us that much because this is how we're seeing it. This is how we're choosing to look at it. I have had different situations in my life, trauma aside, that I just hurt myself constantly because I was seeing things from a perspective that made my head feel like this was how it was completely going. And then it just kept hurting me. I remember there was a time I was dealing with a situation and I kept crying about the situation because I kept making up all of these things in my head. Like, okay, yes, it did happen. And then because it happened the way it happened, I was giving myself reasons why it happened that way. Okay, maybe I wasn't good enough, or maybe this, that. And then I was hurting myself. And then later on, when the situation got resolved, it was completely different. And I get there are situations that, yeah, might not be completely different, but think about it as you're doing yourself a favor. You're trying to heal and get past this journey. So think about it from a different angle. Think about this in a very unbiased, plain, surface level, humane way, okay? And the most important thing is you think about people as people, human beings as human beings. While I know that people can intentionally hurt you because there are really demonic people out there are people that actually hurt people because that's the only way they could have handled that situation. And I want you to always be unbiased when you're having these conversations with yourself. We have to be realistic with ourselves. We have to tell ourselves the truth. Sit down and tell yourself the truth, sis. Sit down and have these conversations that are uncomfortable for you to have. If you're going to lie to everybody else, you can't lie to yourself. Now, my third step in this process is another one that will probably grind your ears because you don't want to hear it, and I understand that. And that is forgiveness and letting go. I have said this many times on this channel. I have a dedicated forgiveness video on this channel where I told you guys that forgiveness isn't about an other person, isn't about the situation, the person that hurt you. It's about you. You can't heal without forgiving. You cannot move forward without forgiving. Now, there are two aspects to forgiveness in this situation of healing from your past trauma and past wounds. First aspect is forgiving yourself, which is the most important, because when it comes to trauma, there are so many things that we blame ourselves for when it comes to that situation that traumatized us. And a lot of us are not easy on ourselves. We're so hard on ourselves. We don't have compassion on ourselves. We just go hard on ourselves, like, I should have not done this, I should have not gone there, I should have not entertained him, I should have not done this, I shouldn't have done that. You give yourself so much heat, and that's the reason why the trauma amplifies in your life. That's the reason why the anger keeps building. That's the reason why the resentment keeps building, because you are not letting go of the guilt. You have so much guilt in you. Yes, you were traumatized by the situation or the person or this and that, but you also blame yourself heavily for how things went. It's the reason why you cannot let go. It's the reason why it is ruining your life. It's the reason why it's controlling your life. It's the reason why you're hardened. It's the reason why you have the character that you have. You are not compassionate to yourself, especially your younger self. I want you to forgive your younger self. I want you to soothe your younger self. Tell your younger self that you understand her. She's not at fault. She did all she could at the time, or what she had the capacity to do at the time. It's not her fault the way things went. And then the other aspect is forgiving the person in the situation, letting go of the situation. And as hard as it might be, I know it's even harder when the person isn't seeking for forgiveness. And even in my forgiveness video, I mentioned this. I said it's hard to give someone forgiveness when they've not asked for it. It's so hard to let go and, let God when the person isn't remorseful. And I feel like the greatest form of love, and this is not even just love for that person, but love for yourself and love for life and you being a good person, is learning to forgive someone even when they don't deserve it. What you did, what you shouldn't have done, or what you might have done isn't the reason why you experienced what you experienced, the level that you experienced it. So let go forgive and let God. Despite the fact that I'm telling you to forgive, I also do understand how difficult it is to forgive. So I would definitely encourage you to take your time with this step. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. It might take you years, and I'm completely fine with it. You will work on it, and when you're ready, you're going to forgive and let go. Don't force yourself to do so. Don't pressure yourself to do so. Now, my fourth step in this process is ascertaining and implementation. And you might be wondering what that means. I would explain, but I would explain with questions so that you can answer those questions as we get into this point. How would you want to use this trauma? How would you want this trauma to show up in your life as? Do you want it to be a pathway to greater things in your life? Do you want it to be a learning experience that helps you live a better life? Are you stronger because of this? And I ask this particular question because if you don't know this, I'm going to say this to you right now. You're not strong despite the things that you go through. You are strong because the things that you went through made you strong. Are you stronger from this situation? Like, have you learned the things that you need to learn from the situation that has made you stronger? No matter how painful it is, if we take the emotions aside, when you look at the situation, the trauma that you've been through, there is always something to take home from it. I want your mindset to switch from, oh my God, this is the worst thing that happened in my life and has completely ruined me. It's a bad thing that happened in my life. I just don't want to revisit it. It made me the worst human being. It did it. I want you to rewire your mind to think about it like, okay, it happened in my life for me and not to me. I need you to understand that things happen for you, bad or good, and not to you. So when something happens in your life, I need you to see it as, this is happening for me. It is part of my story. What am I supposed to take from it? What am I supposed to run with, learn from, and use it as a way to redesign my life, rewrite my story, redesign my technology. The choices you make in regards to your trauma determines how it reflects in your life, how it shows up in your life. And I think a lot of people feel like when they have this trauma, when they go through these situations, they lose control. No, you are 100% in control. I understand that at that moment, because you don't know what you're experiencing, you don't know how to handle what you're experiencing. It probably happened to you when you were so young, you couldn't comprehend, which is completely fine. A lot of us actually went through that at that age or at that stage in our lives where we weren't mature enough to understand what was going on in our lives. At the point where you realize that this is who you are, this is your story, this is your journey, this is your experience, you are in control. You have the choice. You make the choice on how it controls your life, on how it rules your life. When you look at your wounds, ask yourself this question: do you want those open wounds to be a pathway or a gateway for love and light to enter into your life, or do you just want those wounds to consume you? You not treating that wound is leaving a weak area or a weak link for it to control your life, or that vulnerable spot where anything can happen. You don't have control. So you choose how this trauma shows up in your life. You choose what this wound would mean in your life. If you see this wound as a wound that is negative and here to destroy you or consume you, it will destroy you and consume you. But if you look at it as like an open spot, like a portal to greatness, to light, that's like the wound that is going to attract sunlight into that spot and ultimately around my body. Now, the last step on my healing journey is one that you already know, and I hope you were seeing it coming, which is gratitude. It's so hard to give gratitude in a situation that has hurt you so much. But like I said earlier, you have to always see things as a learning opportunity or a learning curve in your life. You need to be grateful for the point that you are in. You need to be grateful for your experiences. You need to be grateful for your life's journey. You're here, you're living, you're breathing, you're doing well. Your trauma has not yet consumed you, because if you're watching this, then you're taking active steps to making better your life. You are at this point and you have the means to live a better life. You need to be grateful for that. Gratitude is one underrated act that has helped and uplifted me in my life. Like, it doesn't matter what I'm going through, how much hurt I am experiencing. It doesn't matter how sad I am. It doesn't matter the deep things or situations that I go through. I always believe that I'm going to come out at the other side smiling, better, happier. I always believe that no matter what pain and discomfort I go through in my life, it's for me. Like I said earlier, it's not against you. It's not working to destroy your life. It's working for you, okay? say you need to see things as things that happen as part of your story to shape and better the person that you are. Pain is essential. Obstacles essential. Change is essential, good or bad. You need to understand that life cannot be smooth. It cannot be the way that you envision or imagine it to be. You can't snap your fingers and have everything that you're thinking that you're going to have. That wouldn't be life, would it? You wouldn't be the way you are right now if you didn't go through all the things that you have gone through. I just hope that the things that you have gone through have not negatively impacted your life where you haven't been able to live to your full potential. And if that is the case for you, I hope when you watch this video, you have a change of heart, you revisit your situations and you address them accordingly, because life is happening for your good. It might not feel like it right now. It might not feel like things are going to get better because you have been through this hardship in your life that is completely consuming you. You have been through this situation that has completely blocked your head or blocked your mind, has shaped your character, has built you up as this person, and you don't know who to turn to, where to go to, how to go about it. I can definitely understand and I completely relate with you. Having lived with it for so long, it is hard to completely change the narrative or change who you are at this time. I understand. I get it. Gratitude will help you overcome situations that you never thought you could come out of. There are so many things that have happened in my life. There are so many traumas that I've had to deal with that I didn't even think dealing with those trauma, like healing from it, I was even going to survive it. So I'm here to tell you that there is hope. It will be a difficult journey. It will be a difficult ride, but you're up to the task. You were given that situation. You were placed in that situation because you have the capability to handle it. I know this is cliche and you've probably heard this a million times and probably do not believe it, but God doesn't give you something that you cannot handle. And I know that I, for one, make a joke all the time and I say, just miss me when you're counting your strong soldiers, when you're picking them for the year 2023, 2024. I don't want to be part of them. But jokes aside, whatever you experienced in your life is because that's your story. You have the power to change your story. You have the power to rewrite your story. You have the power to start afresh. You have the power to start a new chapter. You have the power to completely transform your life. You have the power to be a different you from today. Do not let your trauma define who you are. If you let it will completely control your life. It will completely destroy the God's gift in your life. It will completely clean out the oil from your head. It will completely disorient you. It will make you live a life that you were not destined to live. It will completely strike you every single time you want to stand up and do something for yourself or fight for your life. Not working on your trauma today or not addressing or healing that part of your life that needs to be healed will have you living 2 times, 3 times backwards every single time you move forward. And whilst I've said this a million times and I'm going to keep saying it, I understand that it's easier said than done. I understand that it's not something that you can just start today and expect to complete the following day. I understand that it takes time and I want to encourage you to take that time. The major thing is that you have made the decision to start working on those traumas today. And I want to tell you that I am so proud of you. I encourage you. I give you the strength, the same strength that God gave me to deal with my issues, attack my issues, speak about my issues, because you have no idea how difficult it is to speak about so much hurt that you have bottled up inside. And it could be for different reasons. Every situation that I encounter in my life, I always would see myself going back to those situations, comparing it to that, being scared to take some certain moves in my life because I had similar situations happen in my childhood and it went that way for them and this is how they handled it. I pray that you are able to start this journey, see it through to the end. It took me so long, but I did it and I am 100% sure that you can do it too. Now let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As per usual, follow me on all my socials. My Instagram is linked in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and I will see you in my next one. Bye.